The sun hung low over the city, casting a golden glow across the streets of downtown Atlanta. Marcus Bell, a tall black man in his early 40s, drove his midnight blue BMW through the bustling avenue. He had just left a charity gala, dressed sharply in a tailored suit that hinted at both sophistication and success. The streets were crowded with holiday shoppers, but Marcus felt at ease. It had been a good evening. As Marcus waited at a red light, a piercing wail cut through the air. He glanced into his rearview mirror and saw the flashing red and blue lights of a police car. Confused, he checked his speedometer. He wasn't speeding, and his car registration was up to date. Still, he pulled over to the side of the road, his heart pounding. The gray clouds hung low over the small, sleepy town of Rivermill, a drizzle dampening the cracked sidewalks and weathered buildings. 12-year-old Jamie sat on the steps of the town's library, clutching a battered backpack and a tattered book. His jeans were frayed at the edges, and his oversized hoodie barely kept the cold at bay. Jamie had been an orphan for as long as he could remember, bouncing between foster homes until the system seemed to forget about him entirely. Today, though, Jamie felt a glimmer of hope. Inside his backpack was a carefully written essay, a submission for a national contest called Dreamers of Tomorrow. The grand prize was a scholarship to the prestigious Ashfield Academy, a lifeline to escape Rivermill and chase the dreams he carried in his heart. As Jamie waited for the library to open, a police cruiser rolled to a stop at the curb. Officer Darrell Hayes stepped out, a middle-aged man with a square jaw and a reputation for being tough but fair. His gaze landed on Jamie, and a flicker of suspicion crossed his face. "What are you doing here, kid?" Hayes asked, his tone curt. Jamie straightened his back. "Just waiting for the library to open, sir." Hayes's eyes narrowed. "You've been hanging around here all week. You don't have school?" Jamie hesitated. I'm homeschooled," he lied. In truth, he hadn't been to school in months, not since his last foster placement fell apart. Hayes's lips pressed into a thin line. "Let me see your bag." Jamie clutched it tighter. "There's nothing in it, just books and papers." "Open it," Hayes demanded, his hand resting on his belt. Reluctantly, Jamie unzipped the backpack, revealing the contents. A worn notebook, a few pens, a bag of crackers, and the neatly folded essay. Hayes picked up the paper, his brow furrowing as he scanned the title. Dreamers of Tomorrow, A Vision for a Better World. "What's this?" Hayes asked, his tone softening slightly. "It's for a contest," Jamie explained, his voice steady despite the lump in his throat. "If I win, I can go to a real school." Hayes glanced over the essay, his expression unreadable. "You wrote this?" Jamie nodded. "I worked on it for weeks." The officer's demeanor shifted as he read more of the essay. The words were filled with hope and determination, painting a vivid picture of a world where every child had a chance to thrive, regardless of their circumstances. By the time Hayes finished, his jaw had softened, and a hint of regret flickered in his eyes. "This is good," Hayes said quietly, handing the paper back. "Real good." Jamie took it carefully, his fingers trembling. "Thank you." Hayes stood in silence for a moment, then cleared his throat. "Listen, kid, you shouldn't be out here alone. You got somewhere to stay?" Jamie hesitated, then shook his head. I'll be fine." The officer's gaze softened further. "Tell you what, get in the car. I'll take you to the station, see if we can figure something out." Jamie's first instinct was to refuse, but something in Hayes's tone, a mixture of regret and sincerity, made him pause. Reluctantly, he climbed into the cruiser. By the end of the day, Hayes had connected Jamie with a local community group that offered stable housing for kids in need. A week later, Jamie's essay made headlines when he won the contest, securing his place at Ashfield Academy. When the story spread, it became a symbol of hope and the unexpected connections that could change lives. Officer Hayes attended the ceremony where Jamie was honored, standing in the back with a quiet pride. Jamie's story had changed him too, reminding him of the humanity he had sworn to protect. In the end, both their lives were forever altered by a single encounter on a rainy afternoon in Rivermill.